we'll start at the top with the Jags, the team I think is the most exciting from this division. I think most would agree. So we will begin with the Jaguars. As always, we'll go from the team level, the holistic level, down to the player level and how we see those shares distributing and how we see those players performing with the slices that they get. And so when I zoom in here to the team level inputs, as you can see, 630 pass attempts versus 450-ish rush attempts. That is the kind of trend we see with Dougie Peterson. He has historically been a very, very pass-happy coach. In fact, he's been top 10 in pass attempts in 5 of his 6 seasons. He's never finished lower than 13th in pass attempts. The man likes to throw it after learning under Andy Reid in that West Coast style offense. So I yet again expect another very, very pass-happy attack here. 615 attempts last year. I expect a little bit of a bump up year 2 with the system, a little more familiarity there. And if you look back, there I think is a ton of room for this offense to grow and just overall pace. They were 18 over league average in terms of plays run last year. But you look at Peterson's early history with the Eagles, 130 plays over again the next season, 78 plays over the season before that. So we have definitely seen Doug Peterson move at a fast pace, run a ton of plays. And as we know, the more plays there are run, the more fantasy point chances we have. So I think over 32 league average, that could be conservative here. So just keep that in mind as well. How do we now see this all shaking out, though? That's the team level perspective in terms of pace and total plays and what we're expecting there. Another boost up because of that second year in the system. How do we see it? Let's start with Trevor Lawrence. He's certainly the most intriguing and a lot of people's favorite pick to break into that next tier, the elite cheat code style quarterbacks. And I think he could, but there'll definitely have to be a few things to go right for that to happen. So as you can see here, I project a pretty big aerial pie, 4,680 yards with 30 touchdowns. That's a healthy amount of pie for these guys to eat. And then also, and I love this about Trevor Lawrence, there is some sneaky and I think untapped Konami upside. He's great at the goal line. We've seen him call his own number before. So I think that is also a potential spot for him to continue to grow. 4 touchdowns to 6 touchdowns on the ground. What a huge difference that could make this season. So I think that's a healthy amount of volume for Trevor Lawrence. Now, keep in mind, too, in year 2 of this system and with Trevor Lawrence's talent, that 30 touchdowns could also be conservative. Now, he's only thrown for 25 as a career high so far, but if that jumped up to 40 this year, that's when we would see that cheat code, that next level of Trevor Lawrence. And with the additions of Calvin Ridley here, the return of Evan Engram, it's not without the realm of possibility that Trevor Lawrence could hit 40 touchdowns, and this is just too conservative here at 30, but I thought that's a nice balance of what he's done and where he could be in the future. How do I see all of that shaking out? Well, Calvin Ridley walks right in, and I think he's going to be the biggest mouth to feed. As you can see, 22% share, 139 targets going his way, but as we've seen with Doug Peterson, he does like to share the rock, spread it out to a ton of receivers. In fact, across his Eagles tenure, there's only one 1,000-yard receiver in that span. So this would be a little bit of a departure. But as you can see, 139, 113, 101, and 101 also going here to the tight end. I don't think it's a huge just alpha. It never will be in a Peterson offense. I think the aerial pie is so big here that even with a fairly distributed pie, we get 4 players crossing over into 100-plus targets, especially considering he doesn't, for whatever reason, like to throw it to his running backs, only 9% combined share for the 2 big guys there. Maybe Jermichael Hasty makes it 11 with a little bit more, but not a ton of work, even though it should be going to Etienne. I never understand why, and we'll get to him in a little bit, why I think he's one of the most overrated players in fantasy. It just, for whatever reason, Peterson has never liked to throw to running backs, even when he's got an option like Travis Etienne here. So Calvin Ridley, what do I expect him to do with 139 targets? Well, I had him right around his career average, 13.2 yards per catch. All the early reports are he's head and shoulders above the other talents here. And that's saying something, because Christian Kirk, coming off a great season, saw 23% target share, really anchored the game, but he's definitely more comfortable as a slot guy facing number 2s. You can't overestimate how big of a trickle-down effect Calvin Ridley being there, not only on the target share, but also how efficient these guys can be when he's drawing number 1s, and now Kirk and Zay Jones are feasting on 2s and 3s. I really could see I bumped up everybody's yards per catch just a little bit compared to last year, given I expect a little more efficiency in year 2 and with Ridley helping everybody out from a coverage perspective. And that's also, again, another reason why Trevor Lawrence could just go bananas if they can really identify those mismatches here. I have 113 targets going to Christian Kirk for 76, 988, and 7 touchdowns. That's right around what he's done with a little bump in touchdowns throughout his career, where he was that number 2 in Arizona to DeAndre Hopkins, with maybe a little more target share than what he would have seen with him. And then Zay Jones, over 120 targets, 23% share. That was crazy last year. And he really did solid. Some really good spike weeks. Was one of the best ball receivers you could have invested in. And he's never had more than 5 touchdowns. So I think, 68 catches, 748 and 4. That seems about right for him. Some big splash weeks, but now a distant third, maybe even fourth, considering I also see Evan Engram seeing that 100 targets with a little more receptions. He actually caught 74%, no hands, stone cold Engram there. Ultimately proved everybody wrong, caught far more balls than he historically does. So that was great to see on his. And that's a Doug Peterson staple, using the tight end from Zach Ertz to Dallas Goedert to Evan Engram last year. It has always been the case that he loves to use his tight ends. So I definitely could see another 100-ish targets, 98 last year, a few more, even with Ridley there, just because, again, I see that pie rising and all the ships rising with it. So I definitely could see a nice season there for Evan Engram in his bounce back. Just another kind of boom or bust one, though. There's plenty of weeks last year where he got you absolutely nothing. But when he boomed, 40-point day last year, one of the highest among all tight ends, the second highest score behind only Taysom Hill at the position. And then Travis Kelce was right there too. So a lot of upside to Evan Engram, even if it will be a little bit boomer and bustier than you typically would want. That's what you get from tight ends anyways, though. So moving forward then to the run game and looking at Travis Etienne, I think he's one of the most overrated picks you can make in fantasy, not because I don't like the player. In fact, I have him going for 5 yards a pop, a nice efficient back there, getting over 1,000 yards. But they just don't like to use him in the passing game, as you could see last year. He had around 74% of the snaps by the time James Robinson was jettisoned. He was that featured back. He still only finishes the running back 21 in fantasy. Just a lot of things did not go his way. It's certainly at the goal line. And that was one of the biggest areas of concern for Travis Etienne. He was I think he was top 10 in goal line carries. I'm just pulling up that stat right here. So Travis Etienne, 45 red zone touches, was 9th in the league there. And he ultimately carried it 23 times inside the 10-yard line, which was also top 10, converted just 4 of those into touchdowns. And then they go and draft Big Tank Bigsby, big, thick guy, good goal line converter. I imagine the touchdown opportunities will continue to be very, very skewed. So the fact that he had this much opportunity, Travis Etienne still only scored 5 touchdowns on over 60% of the work, over 75% of the work for half the season, and still only averaged 12.1 fantasy points per game, running back 23. Like the player, and if he did somehow get a spike in passing game usage all of a sudden, I'd like him even more. But it's just a big concern here that has to be factored in. And I definitely do not think going in round 3, 4 turn ahead of Najee Harris often. Just not for me, not a Travis Etienne guy. But as you can see, I do project some decent work for Tank Bigsby. They're saying there's going to be some games, if he gets the hot hand, he might actually outcarry Travis Etienne. Doug Peterson all offseason before drafting Bigsby, we need to add a guy. We're going to add guys. And here we are. So I expect, as you can see here in terms of rushing distribution, closer to 48-30. So definitely the lion's share going to Etienne, but nibbling into there is Tank Bigsby. And that's just enough for me to really just never draft Travis Etienne at his current price based on these projections. But let me know what you guys think. Am I crazy with this Jaguars team? Definitely the most intriguing. And as I said at the top when looking at Lawrence, 30 touchdowns, definitely a jump in what he had last year. But if he jumped to 40, I wouldn't even be shocked. Remember, he closed out the season with 3 of his final 6 games with 30-plus points. There's that week 12 to 15 stretch where he was just cooking, 3+ touchdowns in 3 of those 4 games, including a rushing touchdown as well. I thought that might be a glimpse of what we could see stretch out for a full season, given how good he finally seemed. It really got comfortable in the offense, and now he has Calvin Ridley. If this jumps all the way to 40 and these receivers are just all ridiculous values at their price, wouldn't shock me at all. So very excited about this Jaguars team. Definitely have been drafting a fair amount of the receiving products, just not Travis Etienne. But let me know what you guys think here in the comments. Let me know. Of course, any questions you have, looks like none have come in yet. Let me know you're here. Say hello. And of course, that thumbs up button, if you're enjoying the show, whether you're live with us or catching the replay, it really does help us get out to more people. So come on in, say hello, give us that thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, do consider subscribing so we can continue to give you all your fantasy insight, pave that path to 2022 type. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.